All right, Gary Myers, our good friend, longtime friend. Talked to Gary many, many times on this sports talk show over the many years, and now former New York Daily News NFL columnist Gary Myers joins us here on Big Board Sports. Good morning, Gary.
What's happening, Roger?
What's going on, man? So I'm not used to this former New York Daily News NFL columnist. How's that feel?
I'm kind of getting used to it, but I like it.
Yeah, you do. I figured you did. I figured as much, man. But I know you, and we get to your book, but I know you hosted a pre-draft event last week in New York City with Ernie Accorsi, former Giants GM, and then beat writers Rich Cimini and Pat Leonard. There's more hype on this one than I can remember, because the Giants are picking 2 and the Jets are picking 3 and the Bills are picking 12. They're all of our regional teams of interest. So where do you stand here with the draft coming up tomorrow night on what the Giants will do at number 2?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you what I think that they should do, because it's going to be different than I believe what they will do. I don't think there's any question they should take a quarterback. I've seen Eli play almost every game now, for most of his career, but certainly the last couple of years. And he's just not the same player. I know that, the offensive line was a mess and that all those receivers were out last year. But, guys, all you have to do is watch him play, and you can tell that the skills have deteriorated. And the Giants are not the Jets. They don't pick in the top 5 or 6 every year. So you don't get many opportunities to get a really good quarterback, especially in a year now where there's multiple really good quarterbacks. So I think they need to make an investment in the future. Even if he won't play this year, they need to get the successor in-house, and they don't have that right now. So I would take a quarterback. Fans want instant gratification, and you won't get that with a quarterback this year because Eli's still there, but it will still be the smartest thing to do. What the Giants are going to do, unless they trade down, which I don't think they will, I think they're going to take Saquon Barkley, who is a great player. And in any other year, I'd say this would be a terrific choice, because we saw what Zeke Elliott did for the Cowboys a couple of years ago, and I think Barkley's a better player, but I still think you can't win without a quarterback, and the quarterback the Giants have is 37 years old, and he's declining. As far as the Jets, I think they could take Baker Mayfield. All indications are that they've fallen in love with him. My problem with that is, do you really give up 3 second-round picks to move 3 spots to take a guy who's barely 6 feet tall? But, if he was 3 inches taller, there's no doubt he'd be the first quarterback. He'd be the first player picked in this draft. But the fact is, he's not 3 inches taller. He's barely 6 feet tall.
All right, let's go back to your Giants. If they were to take a quarterback at 2, what quarterback would you suggest they take?
Well, tell me who's going 1 first. And then
I'm going to go Sam. I'm going to go Sam Darnold 1.
Then I would take Josh Rosen 2nd. If Darnold, if Cleveland were to take Josh Allen or Mayfield, and I think they will take Darnold, but if they were to skip on Darnold, then I'd take him for the Giants. But other than that, I would take Josh Rosen. I think he's ready to play. He reminds me a lot of Eli. Not real mobile, much more accurate than Eli. A smart guy, smart football guy like Eli. That's who I would take for the Giants. But I think the Giants have kind of deluded themselves into thinking this whole new regime of Dave Gettleman and Pat Shurmur, with encouragement from John Mara, I think they've deluded themselves into thinking that Eli's got 2 years left. And listen, he's a great guy, and he put 2 trophies in the lobby there at the Giants headquarters. So I'm not being critical of Eli's body of work. I'm just saying I've seen him play enough the last 2 years to know that if they think they're going to if they think they can win a championship with Eli, I just don't see that happening. Even if they built the team up around him, I just don't think he's the same player anymore. I mean, it happens, right? I mean, he's going to be 38 in January, and there aren't many guys like Tom Brady, and even Brett Favre in his career, his second to last year, he played great. I don't see that in Eli anymore. I could be wrong. I mean, they know better than I do.
Gary Myers with us here on Big Board Sports, 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. Check him out on Twitter at Gary Myers NY. And Gary, since you were with Ernie Accorsi last week, I wonder how a former NFL GM would react to something I'm going to try to make a comparison to here. The Giants, to me, feel like somebody who's single but desperately wants to date someone and may even just settle to date anybody. And I'm wondering if the Giants love Sam Darnold, but he isn't there, would the right move still be simply to date Josh Rosen, hoping he ends up being the one, or do they believe that there are other quarterbacks in this draft other than Darnold who, again, could be the one?
Chris, that's a really good question. And I wouldn't have any concerns about Rosen except that he had 2 concussions last year. If he's healthy, I actually think he's going to be better than Darnold. But he's not mobile, and he has a concussion history now. And we know what's going on in the league now. They're getting extremely cautious, and as they finally should. And the other thing is, when you've suffered a concussion, you're more susceptible to the next one. And now he suffered 2 within a couple of month periods last year. So that's my major concern about Rosen. He had minor shoulder surgery in 2016 that did not impact him at all last year. So I'm not worried about that. I'm worried, I'd be worried about the whole concussion aspect. That's the reason that I would pass on him if I was to pass on him. But it's such an unknown. I mean, you can pick anybody and they can suffer a concussion. Quarterbacks get hit a lot. It's just the fact that he's already been through that now and perhaps is more susceptible to it. That would be the red flag. And the Giants very well might say there's one quarterback in this draft that we love, and it's Sam Darnold. And if he's not there, we're not going to force things. We're not going to, from what I've read, I don't know this firsthand, but the first 3 players in the Giants board, none of them are quarterbacks. So if they did take Darnold, number 2, they'd be jumping their board to do that, which teams don't like to do, but you would do it for a quarterback. I think Darnold, from everything I understand, I think Darnold is the only one that they would take at number 2.
Well, there's no question marks around Saquon Barkley, I can tell you that, and they love him.
Gary Rodgers never, ever in his life worn a jersey of any kind other than his own, like when he was in high school. But if Barkley is drafted by the Giants, because Rodgers is such a big Penn State guy, he will buy a Barkley jersey and wear it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, people were trying to guess, after Barkley visited the Giants, he only got a haircut and was wearing a Giants sweatshirt that they gave him. Was he trying to tell people that the Giants had said they were going to take him? I don't know. I think he would do nothing but help Eli. Barkley and a healthy Odell Beckham with Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram, and if, with a new left tackle in Solder, and then I'm sure that Gettleman will take some offensive linemen in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round, maybe in even 2 of those rounds. The Giants' offense could be dynamic next year as long as Eli plays well. And maybe he does have something left in the tank, and maybe it's just the pieces around him have been so bad the last couple of years that it made him look worse than he actually is. So I can understand them thinking that. I don't happen to agree with them. But Barkley, it would just be a dynamic play. I mean, he would be. People tend to forget now because he left on such bad terms. But Tiki Barber was unbelievable his last few years. If he can be Tiki Barber, the way he was rushing for 1,500 yards and catching 1 million passes, then the Giant offense could really be explosive next season.
Gary, let me get to your books here. You got a couple of them. Author of Brady vs. Manning, My First Coach, and then you've got one coming out in October. How about them Cowboys? Inside the Huddle with the Stars and Legends of America's Team, which you can pre-order on Amazon right now. Start with Brady and Manning and how that one's going.
Well, that came out in September of 2015, and I updated it after that year because that's when Peyton won the Super Bowl and then retired. So that one's been out for a little bit, and that was a New York Times bestseller. So I'm really, really proud of that book. The one that came out last August, My First Coach, is a great Father's Day gift, and I know it's coming up in a couple of months. It's a book about quarterbacks' relationships with their dads and how that relationship influenced them and impacted them into becoming the player and even more importantly, the man that they became. And I have a lot of big name quarterbacks in that book. It's been really well received. A lot of people ask me why didn't I just release it for Father's Day. Well, it's because I blew a deadline last year. We couldn't get it out in time for Father's Day. But it's kind of a timeless book in that the stories are still good and they're not outdated by any means. So it's for people in the capital region that are listening. It's a great it'll make a great Father's Day gift. And then I just actually finished last Friday writing this Cowboys book. As you guys know, I worked in Dallas for 8 years at the end of the Landry era and the beginning of the Jimmy Jerry era, and I'm still very passionate writing about the Cowboys. And this was just a really fun book. It's kind of pulling the curtain back somewhat on America's team, and there's a little bit of everything from each of the eras of the Cowboys. The Landry era, the Jimmy Jerry era, and then this last 20 years or so that the Cowboys have kind of fallen into mediocrity. Some business stuff in there about the construction of their stadium and the new training facility, the Star, and how they're monetizing it. Some really good behind the scenes business stuff in there, and then just a lot of fun stories about what happens in their draft room. I think I have stuff that's never been written before about what actually happened when Jerry Jones wanted to take Johnny Manziel, and he was outnumbered like 105 to 1 in their draft room. But just to have a lot of the byplay that went on during that period of time that's actually pretty entertaining.
Gary, doesn't sound like you're retired to me, man. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, I'm not retired. I'm just
former.
I'm just on some new adventures.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep the fun. And didn't you just write a column in the Daily News?
Yeah.
Well, I wrote one. It ran last weekend in March. That was my farewell column.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, I knew.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm done with the Daily News, and it was 29 great years there. I really did enjoy it. But there's so many other things that I want to do. I'm not going to use this with people. I want to spend time with my family because my kids are grown up and out of the house, and I love spending time with my wife. But that's not why I'm doing this. It's just there's so many other things that I really want to get to where I can kind of be my own boss and pick projects that I want to do here and there. That if I didn't do it now, I wouldn't do it. So. Onward and upward, and a lot of fun stuff. I hope to be doing, including coming on with you guys every now and then. If you'll just ask me.
Love it, man. And I've enjoyed reading your work all these years, and I still do, and we'll have many great conversations. I'm sure, Gary. You do a phenomenal job. We appreciate a few minutes here on Big Board Sports, and we've got you marked down as saying the pick will be Barkley tomorrow night. But if you had the pick, it would be a quarterback.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks,
appreciate
Gary.
it.
All right, take care. Have a great day.